Good morning and happy Monday and happy coffee drinking. I feel like I particularly need my coffee this morning. I've just come back from a bit of a getaway in the desert. I went down to Big Bend National Park, which is about a 7.5 hour drive from Austin. And you transition from being in Austin, where especially coming into summer now, it's super humid, like 92% humidity right now, to the desert basically, where it's, anywhere between 17 and 29% humidity. Good morning, Scott. I see your comments. Yay! I'm testing out some new technology today. This is my first time ever on YouTube Live. So I appreciate you being here and kind of helping me test things out. Hello, David. Mwah, yay. Yes, David's in the other room, and he was like, I actually had a bit of a false start. He was like, I don't see you yet. I think you should start again. So here we are. Welcome to YouTube. I hope those of you who are here on YouTube and haven't seen this Monday Morning Coffee series that I do, I've been doing it on Facebook Live, and it's basically a chance to hang out with me. We get to hang out together and chat. I'm drinking coffee on Monday morning and playing the piano anyways, so it's a lovely chance to be able to catch up. I'll talk about my week and play the piano a little bit. But it's kind of like equal parts chatting and piano, and it's a bit off the cuff piano playing. Lately I've been playing some classical pieces occasionally, like I'll play one classical piece and then I'll do an improv and I'll play a snippet of whatever I'm working on that particular week. So yes, I spent the week in the desert and the mountains in Big Bend National Park, down on the border between Mexico and Texas, and it was beautiful. And one evening we brought the keyboard out, and I got to play the piano as the sun was setting. The setting sun was reflecting off the Chisos Mountains right in front of me. Across the desert, the Chisos Mountains are what's called an island mountain range, where they're just like in the middle of a desert. There's this mountain range, and so you have all these species up there that were stranded after the ice age. Like, it's just a really, really cool place. Hi, Sai. Oh, it's lovely to see you. I think it's so nice to see comments. I've been having a bug for the last too long on Facebook Live, where I haven't been able to see comments live. I had to go on afterwards, after I was done being live, and respond by text. But of course, that's kind of silly. Like, the point of being live is that I get to be like, oh yay, hi, Sai is here with me, and Scott's here with me, and David's here with me. Yes, here's Sai. This is kind of a cool feature of of this. Sai just said, I've seen some amazing places, and and yes, I'm lucky enough to have been able to see some amazing places. I'm definitely an adventurer at heart, and have always done everything I can to make space in my life for adventure, whatever that means. So, but I did actually, some music did come to me as I was noodling around on the keyboard, watching the setting sun sort of reflect off the Chisos Mountains. And something about just being away, I think, can open a really creative space in me, and I think that's very common for a lot of people. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit later, but I like to play looks like I'm pointing at my coffee. That was not intentional. I'd like to play this tune that came to me while I was in the desert, and let me know what you think. It is partially finished. This is kind of what I like to do on Monday Morning Coffee, is share whatever is fresh, whatever's new this last week. And so this is new. And in fact, I came up with 2 different tunes in the desert, but this one I think is particularly expansive. So let me know what you think. that last little bit was a bit of an improv kind of continuing. So I think this piece has definitely some places to go. And if you've been watching Monday Morning Coffee, you'll know I have another piece that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks before I went to the desert called Emerge. And then I've got something else that came to me while I was in the desert. And then I had kind of like a poppy song, like a singing song kind of going through my head in the desert. Gosh, okay, I need to sit down and like finish these things. Oh, yay, Scott says it sounds so good. I'm so glad that the sound is coming through. I think that Facebook Live was maybe doing some compression to the sound, so I'm so pleased to have figured out how to go live here on YouTube and to share the lovely sound quality of my space and my piano with you. Oh, it feels tender. I love that, David. I love that if anything, maybe like came from a really open, tender space in myself. So I'm so pleased that you like it. I've always discovered in my life and in my creative life that when I'm able to, it's almost like when I'm able to quiet the busyness of kind of normal life, you know, I've got chores and I've got, you know, the garden to tend to, and I've got, you know, all my appointments with all my friends, and even like, you know, even though it's wonderful stuff, it's stuff that keeps me busy, keeps my mind busy. And so I found there's a lot of different ways that I can remove myself from that and remove myself from that like mental busyness. But I found when I do that I often discover things about myself, creative things like, gosh, on a greater scale, quitting my job and leaving Seattle to travel the world for who knows how many years, was a version of doing that, because I pretty much left behind everything that had defined my life, and it created this open space for composing and being a recording artist to grow and to be. And I honestly don't think that would have happened if I hadn't done that. And of course, like most people are not, especially if they own a house or they have kids or, you know, even dogs, pets, you know, like there are a lot of reasons that folks can't do that. And there's a lot of ways that you can create that kind of space in your normal life. I think a vacation or even just a getaway camping trip can do that. Even just getting out into nature and hiking even for a day can sometimes do that, although it depends on how busy your life is, because I've discovered for myself, it takes me about half a week to a week to like, I don't know, like let go of all of the busyness and the to-dos and kind of the stress mindset and really open up and be able to see kind of the edges of what could be possible. Hello, Dave. That's the gardening astronomer is Dave. And hello, it's lovely to see you. And good morning or good afternoon, really. Dave's in Nova Scotia, so maybe more afternoon. Yeah, and like meditation, I think, is another way you can do that, because you can, it kind of forces you to simplify what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on, and it can help you actually kind of see around the edges of what you're focusing on, see all the different parts of what you're focusing on. And I think sometimes then you can see the value of your experience a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling on about my experience, but I'd be curious to know if you all experience anything like that. You know, that distance, quiet can like create space for creative ideas or new parts of yourself to emerge. So I think next what I'd like to play is, so last week I played one of my mother's favorite classical pieces, one that her students, you know, if they got to a certain level, she was a piano teacher, and if they got to a certain level, all of her students would play this piece that I played last week, which was Träumerei, Schumann's Träumerei. And now I actually want to play another piece that she loved, and that also all of her students would have played at some point if they got to a certain level and they didn't hate it. She never made a student play a piece that they hated, ever. So I'm gonna play MacDowell's To a Wild Rose, which is kind of like some of the music I've been writing lately is really sweet and sort of simple and gentle, and this piece kind of speaks to that. Oh, just a second, it's on the floor where music belongs. And part in this book, I've had it for ages, and the binding is like, the binding of this particular book just has always fallen apart. I used to get this book for my students, and like I've never seen a version of it that didn't fall apart. In fact, in hindsight, it was maybe a bit of a poor recommendation. But this is McDowell's To a Wild Rose, and if you're new to this whole experience, every week I've been pulling out just kind of a random classical piece and sight reading it to share it with you, because honestly lately the last couple of years I haven't been playing hardly any classical music. I've been playing all my own music, and it's kind of nice to work on my sight reading and to share it with all of you. And this music that used to be a really important part of my life as a musician, it's kind of nice to revisit that with you. So this is To a Wild Rose. Isn't that just sweet and lovely? It's such a beautiful piece. Get my piano back together. Let's see. Oh, Dave. Well, this is perfect. I'm drinking coffee and you can be drinking cocktails or beer or wine or whatever. It's happy hour and Monday morning coffee. Awesome. Dave is saying that it's sounding great. I'm so pleased to hear that. Yay. And I think the sound is much better here. In fact, it's really quite delightful how excellent the sound just captured. This is just captured out of my iPhone. I take the case off so that it's not affecting the sound at all. But yeah, it's fantastic. And I'm really happy that I figured out the technology too, because I don't have 1,000 followers on YouTube yet. So I can't go live through the YouTube app on my phone. But then if you're not going live on your phone, then there's all kinds of extra equipment that you need. And and stuff like that. Speaking of, if you are here and you have not subscribed to my channel yet, then you can do that. You just click on my name and then there's a button that says subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified when I go live and when I post new videos, you just click the bell if you're new to YouTube, which I'm new to YouTube. I don't use YouTube a whole lot, but I am looking forward to exploring it more because I love making videos and I love this live experience of chatting with you. So I'm curious to hear how your weekends have been. What did you get up to over the weekend? I got to have a lovely vacation and hiking in the desert where it was 108 degrees. Let me tell you, that was a little wild so when we were planning the trip, we were Googling, what's the usual weather in Big Bend National Park? It's like, mid 80s or so, this time of year. And hey, no problem. That sounds great. That's actually even cooler than in Austin. Well, it turns out that is the temperature in the mountains, in that island mountain range that I was talking about in the park. But down on the desert floor, where a ton of the hiking is, and like all along the Rio Grande, it was over 100. It was the first day we hiked, it was 108 degrees. And fortunately, I way over prepared for hiking in the desert. And so I was just okay at 108 degrees, playing like, staying with really kind of shorter hikes, nothing more than 2 miles or so at a time so that we could get back to the car, cool down in the AC, drink lots of water and all that. Let's see, Sai, would you play in risque places? What would you consider a risque place? I'm curious to know what that question means. Probably. Risque countries. It just depends on what that means. If you mean like places that would be considered maybe a little bit dangerous to go right now, then probably not right now. It just depends. It depends on what might bring me out there. If someone invited me to play out there for a particular concert, then I always consider that. I do love traveling and I love touring and playing concerts. Let's see here. Okay, so, all right, sorry, I'm like really digging all these comments. Lockdown. Dave, does that mean that when you're in lockdown in Nova Scotia, does that mean that you can't go camping? Because, I guess Texas wasn't ever really in lockdown, to be honest, because Texas. Does that mean you can't be outside even? That would be really rough. I would really struggle with that. Okay, I will come back to your comments and let's have some improvisation. We'll see where my brain is at. So if you're new to this, then I'm gonna tell you, improvisation is just, I'm gonna come up with something on the spot, something I've never played before, something that will probably never be played again. And so it can be a really wonderful space to kind of hear where my ear is at and where my artistic mind is at. Sometimes it's very floaty, sometimes it's more driven, and it only happens once. So let's see what we come up with. Sometimes they're so great that I have to go back and listen and like learn how to play them and actually compose them as pieces. That has actually happened before. But let's see. Sometimes I think ahead and like come up with like a tune or something that I want to improvise on. Today I did not. So, my Desert Chisos Mountains song was in A major, and actually so was To a Wild Rose. So probably just to keep myself from going crazy, I'm gonna improvise in A major as well. So I remember, Dave, that last week you'd asked, do you ever play notes that are outside of the key? And so I thought, I was like, you know what? Let's do something a little weird. So I did something a little weird. Aw, David, I'm so glad you love my improvs, and I appreciate that you're here and watching. Let's see here. I'm having... Okay, Dave says they have to stay in their communities and not congregate. Okay, I see that. I could see that for sure. And it's a shame that you can't get outside, but I guess at least you can be outside within your communities. And I hope that the number of cases and hospitalizations goes down to the point where that can relax a little bit for you. I hope so. Crossing fingers. Hopefully, it seems like we're all hopefully moving towards having a vaccinated world that is a little bit more manageable for our healthcare systems. But I appreciate that living in the US, live in a pretty privileged space where vaccination has happened very quickly, and in most countries it has not happened as quickly. So thank you for being here with me today. This has been Monday Morning Coffee. I've really enjoyed being able to see your comments. Like, oh my goodness, my heart is so open from being able to actually have a lovely conversation with you. And I'm really glad you're here. I hope you had a good weekend, even with the lockdown, Dave. And by the way, Mr. Astronomer, I got to look at the moon through a telescope while we were in Big Bend, which was wonderful. We tried looking at some other things, but didn't have a whole lot of luck because the moon was so bright. But the moon was absolutely beautiful. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care of yourself. Do something kind and loving for yourself this week, no matter how busy you are, because it's always, always worth doing. And, do something kind and loving for someone you love. Care for those that you love and everybody else. Gosh, if you've got the bandwidth, not everybody does, but if you've got the bandwidth, extend that sort of spirit of kindness all around you, because I feel like we need more. Have a great week, and I'll see you